Parklands.
Correct.
So, to Bob's point also, I don't think we would recommend planting trees in there since we can't. It's illegal to do that as well. So, okay. Those are more like my questions, but I have comments as we get to the end of it.
They can request to plant in Parklands. That would be a process.
I was under the impression we don't want to put anything in we keep Parklands clean or without any trees that we plant.
But people can come forward to request planting in Parklands with native plants.
Okay.
There is a policy for use of landscaping parklands, and that would include some conditions.
Okay. All right, those are my questions.
So this, did this application trigger that you saw the encroachment, or you knew about the encroachment and then the application came?
We were aware of the encroachment a long time ago.
But, so the lines that I see when I walk, did that come after the application, or?
All of the surveys,
Yeah, the survey.
stakes and the lines, they were all, part of it was put down by the applicant to indicate where his property line is.
Right.
And I believe the other resident performed a survey. I'm not sure what the purpose was, but there was some flags that were placed afterwards to indicate the boundaries of Lot D, but it only identified one side of the lot. It was 20 feet deep. So it may be a little confusing.
Well, it is a little confusing, even in the picture, and I think even with what Susie was saying. So there's parkland, which is more of a narrow strip, and then there's the right-of-way, which you cannot
Get
plant
back to
in
that.
at all, the alley, what you're calling the alley. Yeah, that's a good picture. So, so it's only in the parklands that they can, and that's where they're showing their trees, but not in the right-of-way. So that's where, okay. I also wanted to say that, I know it's not,
You have a question, because you
Yeah,
can
yeah.
make your comments later.
Oh,
but
well, I
this
did- I
is
did
just-
have-
We're
well-
just, you can make all the comments you want later, but can we focus, if you are focusing on another question to Carl?
well, I did have another question.
Go ahead.
So I know this picture is tied to the applicant in terms of this, terms of their view, but is it tied to, because this right-of-way goes all the way around, is it tied to anything that happens to the west of this picture?
There's other encroachments further down.
Yeah.
There's an alley that goes down to Paseo Lonato. There's a grass lawn next to
know.
the first house, and a tree that's been planted in the
Right.
middle of it.
But no one is suggesting any other tree removals?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Tell me again, Carl, just the trees that are proposed to be planted back in the alley area, or what are those?
Parklands.
In the parklands, or in the right-of-way. It looks like they're in the parklands, I guess, where they...
The way it looks, that they're all being proposed to plant in the right-of-way. So that would be part of the right-of-way.
That's not Parklands?
No, the parklands would be further in. This is the outside portion.
Yeah.
So where that right-of-way on the top right in the diagonal is where I believe that circle is. And this would be in the right-of-way too, because from that red line on the right, there's 20 feet of right-of-way, the alley, and after that, it's parklands
Okay.
next
All
to the
right.
house.
And should we not avoid planting more trees in an access road, isn't that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I just want to make sure I'm thinking about it
There
correctly.
is a policy that we, for planting of native in parklands, which you can consider
Yeah.
if you thought that was appropriate
We
Okay.
don't have to.
to mitigate some of the privacy impacts.
Right.
Can you ask them not to have a conversation?
Yeah. Okay. All right. Any other questions to staff, or are we ready to hear from the applicant?
Let's see if I can get that PowerPoint.
Okay, here we go again. This is your
Here we go again.
final try. Hold on a second.
Hold your breath. Let's see.
Okay.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Again, my name's Alan Rigg. I'm helping Melinda and Michael with their application. Next slide, please. Again, I'll go through the specific findings in the tree management policy. Next slide, please. Hopefully this is a little bit clearer as well. There are 3 locations of vegetation that impact their views. The configuration of right-of-way and parklands is odd. And with groups 1 and 2, my assessment was they're in parklands, and group 3 being on right-of-way. Next slide, please. Here you can see the impacts of the views to the rear of their home, from their current kitchen and dining room, and from their future kitchen and dining room. Please note the views are impacted from both their current home and from the expansion. Next slide, please. The fence is partially removed in this picture between the boundary of the right-of-way and the parklands. Next slide, please. Group 1, as Carl mentioned, is a large carob tree. Next slide, please. Better tree, picture of it showing the nighttime impact. Next slide, please. Group 2 includes a bush and a small tree. Next slide, please. And finally, group 3 is multiple trees. Not really sure exactly what they are, but Carl's explained them. Next slide, please. And the view impacts at night. Next slide, please. I think this is the meat of our discussion. Our proposal is to remove the subject trees and shrubs and plant 5 trees. We've seen the letter, and I've just spoken with the neighbors. We are not wed to having the 2 trees in the parkway on Villa Rivera. If it helps, and I know the heck they've been going through, I was involved with one of their neighbors with the encroachments, and we're willing to plant all 5 trees in the parklands of a variety that they can work out with Carl. It's a shade tree that'll stay small, that'll give them privacy and in locations where they want them. So long as it helps them, and we still, and privacy is a 2-way street, right? So if they're planted where it's the best privacy for them, it's the best privacy for us as well. So we would offer that to try to make this a win-win. Next slide, please. Back to the findings. Views are definitely impacted. Next slide, please. There's no real character with these trees that's being impacted. Next slide, please. As we mentioned, there is some privacy impacts, and we're willing to move all trees to the parklands in locations as they want in order to hopefully increase privacy in the end, or at least make it not so bad. Next slide, please. There's no impacts on public safety. Next slide, please. And they're not the designated street tree. They're anything far from it. Next slide, please. We think the findings can be made. I think from the letter and from my discussion that the neighbors, this will make the best of a bad situation they're going through, and I would ask for the applicants, the property owners, to speak.
Dear Mr. Chair and members of the Parklands Committee, my name is Michael Lemus, and my wife Melinda and I own the property at 2709 Villa Rivera. We'd like to thank you for your time tonight and for reviewing our application for the trees, shrubs to be removed from the parklands and right-of-way adjacent to our home. We appreciate everyone taking the time to come look at the impacts to our views, their locations on the parklands, right-of-way, as well as having the ability to answer any of the questions or concerns that any of you had. With me tonight, I have additional photos that I displayed during our showings that I'd be happy to leave with you if the committee, if if it would be helpful to the committee. As we have come to realize, there are two issues here. The first issue is the impact to our views. There are 3 locations of vegetation that impact our views that have been identified in the presentation. As we understand it, the carob tree, number 1, can and will grow up to 40 feet in height and width if it is left as is. This would severely impact our views from main living spaces. If removed, the entire horizon and additional ocean views open up from our home. The starflower Brazilian pepper, number 2, is taking up what we call our A view, which looks down into Lanada Bay and where we have the most direct view of water from our home. If removed, it would preserve our A view from our property. The loquat, honeysuckle, and tree, number 3, blocks our entire view north. If removed, the entire bay and Malibu coastline can be seen from our home. All 3 of these locations provide the best views for sunsets from our property. The impacts to our home are from existing and future main living spaces. We are in the process of expanding our home, and as set up in our showings, the kitchen, living room, and family room will all open up to the backyard facing west. All 3 of these identified vegetations will severely impact our main living areas if left as is. The second issue presented here is the trees' locations being on Parklands Row and whether they were legally planted or native to the area. The trees have similarly been treated as private property as they were located behind a fence that is now in the process of being taken down. As presented, all 3 vegetation are in fact located in Parklands or in Row. It is for this reason, additionally, that we are asking for permission for all 3 to be removed, returning our Parklands and Row back to its native natural habitat. In closing, we propose to replace these trees, shrubs with 5 agreed-upon acceptable varietals in locations that would enhance our aging urban forest and we would also do our best to provide our neighbor below with privacy and shade. Thank you for your time and consideration, Michael and Melinda Lemus.
All right, thank you very much. And we have one more speaker, I believe, on this item, which is Mr. San Juan, or Ms. San Juan. Ms. San Juan.
Thank you to the committee. Our neighbors have made it a little bit easier with the compromise position, so thank you.
Roll it. Go ahead, thank you.
All right, thank you. My name is Elvira San Juan. I'm here with my husband, Carl Caterson. We live at 841 Tyburn Road, the subject property where the parking lands and alley is adjacent to. And those trees were there when we unfenced, were there when we purchased the property in 2005. I think that was a question that I heard come up. And we have paid citations, and we're in the process of removing the fence. The survey will help us identify where the court should be cut off, so we're going to do that. In conversations with Carl and Enforcement Officer Cash, they were thinking those trees would stay because the carrotwood and the carob in particular, because they're nice specimens. They're really very beautiful. I understand the fire concern, especially with the carob tree. We have trimmed those trees in the past, so Member Nye, I'm right with you with residents paying for that cost, and even had a thank you note from the Lemuses when they moved in that we trimmed them. So with the notice that that's Parklands, then some of that stopped. But I do think that there's an opportunity, for cost sharing is where we have been. So I appreciate the response from the applicant to address the privacy concern. The prior locations of 2 of the new trees would not have helped with privacy and shade. That's one of the pictures I send in shows the extreme amount of shade. And it is amazingly getting hotter back there with the global warming. We have some great hummingbirds in what we call the bee tree, because it's bees as well. So we're thinking that red bud tree will help the continuation of the hummingbirds, which I think are really key. So I appreciate the reconsideration by the applicant. We've tried to be good neighbors, and we look forward to that future relationship. And welcome to the city clerk, and thank you for taking that late letter. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, who wants to, does anyone have any comments about this petition? Ms. Roslick?
Sure. As we've defined, it's clearly a vegetative encroachment. It's illegal, all of it. Back a year ago, Chairman Cooper and I were tasked with reviewing the encroachments policy and determining how we can go forward with enforcing encroachments in the city. The city has over, I think, 200 known encroachments. We did that, and based on what we learned and what's been confirmed tonight, is this is clearly an encroachment. If we deny this application, I think we're setting a precedent in saying that it's okay to encroach on the parklands. You talked about putting other trees in the parklands. You can put those trees on your property. You know your property line, put the trees on your property. That's my feeling. I don't like to remove trees, but this is a clear encroachment, and it's been there for for 40 years. And what the city attorney said during the meetings was that it doesn't matter if it was 40 years ago, it's still an encroachment and it's illegal. So that's the discussion we have to have.
Okay.
I think you could be consider it in that, as far as I know, when I went, even the applicant didn't know their borders of their property. I mean, that's why he put the line there. I mean, he didn't know, and I'm hearing from their neighbor that they bought the property not knowing. I'm just saying.
And that's part of the problem in the city.
So that's what we have to consider, that it's not like.
But that's part of the problem with the
That's
city,
right.
with encroachments. It's
That's
encroachment into the parklands, which is the property of the city.
Yeah.
And there's a municipal code that governs what goes in that area.
Oh, no, I agree.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I think it's really great that they've come together to talk about it, you know? I mean, it's not like either one of them, well, not, at least not the applicant for sure, but.
I agree with that.
Right, that's all I'm saying. But that said, in the new letter that we got with the new picture, so I just want to be clear. So of the 1, 2, 3 trees that are, 2 are in the parkland and 1 is in the right-of-way, so you're just for moving the 1 tree, you're just suggesting, it's a question, are you just suggesting to move the 1, to move it from where they were saying they wanted to put it?
That's right.
You just moved the X, right?
The X's and in the application, we're closer to Tyburn, so we're on the other side of the 1.
Right.
So they would not have screened the patio.
Right. And with your hardscape, just to, to contend with what Susie said, is that with your hardscape, it is hard you don't have a lot of land to plant trees on in terms of your.
We are going to embrace the openness.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, good. Okay. I mean, it's not like, at least when I was looking over, there was a lot of hardscape, so, yeah. Okay. In terms of this, in terms of accepting this, though, we're saying we want to remove the trees that you were talking about. But in terms of planting the trees, that doesn't have to necessarily be part of our approval here, right? Or when you remove trees,
You're correct.
it is
You
kind
can
of
make
two
the
separate.
motion any way you want.
Right, okay, just, the thing is, but the carob tree is not on the removal, right?
Yes, it is.
Or it is on the, okay, it is on the removal. Okay. Even though you've been trimming it, right? But it is pretty close to your house.
Right, and there, on the slide 12 of the application, which, I don't know which one that is, Carl, you can see that you could trim the carob tree, and if you, as opposed to taking it completely down, because you'll just see our roof. So right now, the carob tree provides significant visual screening for our neighbors from the roof, which, since they are above us, they'll just look directly down on that.
Right. And what is your response to that, Carl? Is that,
Carob trees can be maintained at very low heights.
yeah,
But they would require, that would necessitate annual trimming.
by them? It's on their property, right?
No, it's on Parklands.
Okay, that's what I'm looking, it's so close to their house.
It's in Parklands. It wouldn't be trimming that the city would perform. And if it was to stay, the trimming of the tree, I believe, would be on the applicant.
Yeah,
This is his application. It's not
right,
Tyburn Road's application.
right.
If that's how you approve this, it wouldn't be for the applicant to maintain it for,
In other words, if we don't approve the removal and we say it's a
Right.
trimming, it's on the applicant.
it would have been
in-
like the
in the-
application with Kirby, he would have had to been trimming the trees, not the adjacent resident.
If I may, if it is informative, I know I didn't talk.
No, I don't think we get to do that as a matter of procedure, unfortunately, although I certainly welcome anything you would have wanted to say. But my thoughts are, first of all, I'm very heartened to see that the neighbors are talking and working this out as reasonable people. That's great, and I want to have a solution that fosters that. I think from my perspective, taking out the trees, I do hate to take out the carob tree just because it's a magnificent tree, but the circumstances of it, I don't think leave us much of a choice. It's right in an alley that's meant for access. It's not, although they didn't intend it clearly, it's not something that the owners at Tyburn knew about, but it's a tree that shouldn't be there, as all the trees are. So it's,
You can't accept this.
well,
That's incorrect.
I'm sorry.
That's incorrect.
Well, okay. Tell me why that's incorrect. I'm willing to ask you that.
It's not on parkland.
It's not on the right of way.
That's right, it's not on the right of way.
It's on Parkland.
Chair Cooper,
Yeah,
It's on parkland.
the carob tree is located in Parklands,
okay, not right of way.
not right away.
I know that.
Right.
So what did I say
I
wrong?
think you said the alley, which would be.
said
give
it-
it-
Okay. Okay, pardon me.
He meant Parklands.
All right.
You meant
I meant Parklands. But in any event, my bigger question is, what do we replant and where? Because I don't want to do anything that lessens the access, and yet I want to preserve the privacy of the San Juans. So that's something that maybe we can talk about and try to fashion the solution. I think, as Carl has said, planting the tree proposed by the applicant doesn't affect negatively the character of the area because it's similar to the street tree that's designated, so that's not an issue.
Can you put
Oh,
up
my-
your picture?
Yeah,
Of the 4 trees?
yeah.
Can you put your picture up of the 4 trees that are in, that way we're all on the
We
same?
have this application up. That's the carob.
Yeah, but you had your nice drawing where Parkland
All right,
right
there's the
away
carob.
and
Oh,
trees
you're
that are
looking for
coming
that.
out. Yeah. Yep.
I mean,
Where's the 4th?
my issue with this is that it's illegal. And if we deny the application, we're setting a precedent that says that residents, regardless of if they knew or not, are okay with having an encroachment that we've already given a violation to, an encroachment into the parklands. So the next time somebody comes up, or we try to go, or the code enforcement officer goes to somebody with a pool, there's nowhere to stand because we've approved an encroachment into the parklands. And from what I understand from the municipal code, that's not acceptable. If I'm wrong, let me know. But those are full-on encroachments. They have a property line. If they want trees, then they put them on the side of their property line. And those aren't considered city trees, right? Those are private trees.
If they're on public land, they're public trees.
If they're on their property line,
If they were on private property, they'd be private trees.
they'd be their trees. But when they come into the parklands, which I don't think we should get in the habit of putting trees in parklands, we can't take care of the number of trees we have now. So it doesn't seem like we have a lot of legally we have a lot of options. That's my opinion. You're a lawyer. You might be able to state this better, but
Well,
everybody has a property line, and you're supposed to stay within that property line. It's unfortunate that the previous owner didn't, and they didn't, I don't know if the city gave them a violation at that point. I doubt it, but they did, or you don't know?
No, it would be so long ago that no one could
Right. It's
Too long ago.
2005.
Too long
But
ago.
yes or no.
the city council has charged us with being more aggressive with encroachments. So the first one that comes up, if we say, well, no, let's just let them stay and trim it back, who are we helping?
Yeah, so, like, as I was saying, and I don't disagree with your point, Ms. Rosick, I think I'm favoring cutting the trees that should never have been there, and in some cases, propose a hazard slightly. So, but what I'm most interested in is what we replant or what we approve in our petition, or do we just want to grant the application? Well, let me just say, I don't think we should grant the application to the extent it requests replanting trees in such a way that
In the parklands.
in the parklands. So, Ann, do you have a suggestion as to?
Well, I mean, this is, it's not as straightforward. I mean, I agree with everything you're saying. When I was trying to walk this right away and found, a trampoline in my way, and the owner had to come out and say, oh, no, you were supposed to be able to walk through. Oh, well, it looked like a grassy area to me, I thought, oh. I mean, that one, they definitely didn't want anybody walking beside their house. So that was a big encroachment. In this one, the reason why I'm not as thinking it's, black and white here is that their house goes right up to their property line. How that was okayed, I don't, I know I have a 3-foot, where I can't do hardscape. I mean, it just, and they bought the house, and I don't know if anyone.
That's not your concern.
I know, but I'm just a little worried that.
And that's not what we
I
can,
know,
what we can
but
affect.
but I am concerned that they're going to have, unless they build a really high fence, when someone's walking through the alley or the parklands, no buffer. So, and also no shade. I don't know. Do you consider that? Can you consider that, Carl, or?
Normally, when we've had to do fire safety weed abatement and people have said that we've taken their privacy and their shade away, our usual response is, well, you can plant on your own property to restore your shade and your privacy. But the Parklands does have the ability to approve plantings in parklands, but there's more to it. It's like a variance. There has to be specific reasons why they have to go into parklands to do it, and there's no other option for them to do it. It's going to be a hardship. It's going to be a financial hardship. It's going to be something that if you approve it, everybody else can do the same thing.
Yeah.
So you probably would want to use the hard, fast rule that if they would like to plant trees, they should plant them on their private property.
Yeah. Anyway, it hurts.
As I've said 20
Yeah.
times in this meeting today, I don't like to take trees down. I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it, and I feel bad about that. It's a nice tree. But I don't know what other option we have, because they've been given a violation of an encroachment by the city, correct? On all of it. And to abate the encroachment, you have to remove what's there, right?
Yes, except
Yes.
the city is a little bit soft-hearted about trees.
I know that, but vegetation, I know in certain areas is versus like a pool, but it's still encroaching on Parkland's property, which is the Parkland's property, according to the municipal code, is a property of the city. So it already is possibly prohibiting emergency vehicles from getting down there. I mean, that's the reason there's a property line. You have a property line because you stay inside of it. So I know I'm being really hardline on this, but to me, it's a precedent. If we say, oh yeah, let's just leave them there, trim them down, let's be happy, then the next people that come up, why is the next one then different? I'm trying to rationalize that.
All right, do I hear a motion, or are we not ready for that?
I'm not quite ready for that.
Okay.
Okay. So, the removal of the trees is paid by who?
The applicant.
Applicant.
Even though it's on,
Yes, it's the
see,
applicant.
that's a little strange here as well, in other words,
Well, the city wouldn't be
Well, the city wouldn't be doing it, and it's the applicant's application, so they get the honor, the responsibility of
Right.
forming whatever they get approved.
And they're ready to step up and do that, by all accounts. So, again, the only thing I want to confirm, because my position is I think we should grant the application to remove the trees. I'm just trying to fashion another part of the solution that perhaps, as far as the replanting, I mean, a couple of the trees are in the front of their house, so those don't really have any bearing on the neighbors. But I'm just trying to think about how we can do something that perhaps helps with the privacy of the folks on Tyburn. Of course, I know they also have the option of just planting trees on their own property. So there's that. There's that. And I appreciate the fact that they didn't cause this situation and they're now in the middle of it. Definitely appreciate it. But I guess what I would do is I would move to grant the application, which is PC 58024, to remove the 4 trees and 1 shrub located in the public right-of-way in Parklands, adjacent to 841 Tyburn Road. And I would further grant the trees requested to be planted by the applicant, replanted, except any that are in the Parklands or right-of-way.
I'll second that.
All right, are we ready for a roll call?
Committee Member Rossett?
can we
Yes.
discuss it a little bit?
If
Oh, you want to discuss it?
If you want to discuss
I just want to be clear what you're saying, because there's another caveat here where Carl was recommending the St. Mary magnolia versus the little gem. And there is, I had to do some due diligence to look it up. There is quite a bit of difference between them in that the little gem is considered more of a dwarf and a very slow-growing plant, even though eventually we'll get to maybe the same height as the St. Mary's, but many, many years later, whereas the St. Mary's can grow fairly large faster. So you were saying the St. Mary's is the street tree of
Yes, it is.
Via Rivera.
Yes.
So I just want to make sure that when we do the vote, that we're voting for the St. Mary versus the Little Gym, right? Or unless you have another discussion or someone else has a reason why they want to pick the Little Gym. They're both beautiful.
Yes, they're both
Both
beautiful. They're
beautiful.
both magnolias. One has large
Yeah.
leaves, one has small leaves.
Yeah.
One has large flowers, one has small flowers. And they have similar height and width.
Eventually.
Yes.
So is there a reason why you picked the St. Mary's or someone picked the St. Mary's versus the Little Gym?
Variety.
Oh,
And then it became, so we have a lot of places where we put the Little Gem, a lot of streets that are designated with it, and it was a choice at that time to put different types of trees in different areas.
so I didn't look down the street. Are there more St. Mary's versus
Yes.
Little Gyms? And that's why you were,
Whenever we're requested to plant a tree on Via Rivera, we plant a St. Mary.
okay. So is that going to be included in your,
Does it need to be included?
well, because I thought we were agreeing on the 2 trees in the front of their
Yeah,
house.
the motion was for the Little Gem to basically approve their application. I don't know that it's a distinction with much of a difference.
Would you prefer we include the trees in the motion?
Yes, because they're asking
Okay.
for.
I mean, he recommended something else.
St. Mary, or they're going to get permission to plant a Little Gem. And it's your prerogative. You can always vary from the designated street tree because they're asking you to do.
Okay, so you need to include St. Mary.
We don't need to.
You don't need to.
We can
I'm
do
just
it either
saying,
way.
you can say Little Gym, but that's, you have to say one or the other, I think, is all.
I would second your motion that you originally proposed.
You had the motion,
Oh, I did? Okay.
and I seconded.
It's getting late. All right.
Just say you were agreeing St. Mary was the one you recommended, and that's the one, the St. Mary tree. Yes.
Magnolia.
It's a street tree, but I don't think it makes a difference, and we're allowed to vary, so I would allow the applicant to plant that tree, the Little Gem. And that was the motion I made. And so I would just reiterate the same motion I made. And if
It wasn't clear to me you were saying that. Little
Okay,
Gym.
is there a second?
I second.
All right, shall we have a roll call vote?
Committee Member Rossig,
Yes.
Committee Member Nye,
Yes.
Chair Cooper.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, and that leads us to committee chair and committee member reports, and we don't have any such reports this week that I'm aware of.
No, we pretty much talked about it.
But,
I don't have anything on.
okay, and so I'll move that we adjourn the meeting. Thank you.